Welcome back to the Greg Ryder Show. It feels like it has been a couple months since we've been able to do an episode. But on this episode, we are talking with a friend, Lindsay Dietz. And, we wanted to release this episode back in 2023, but the intro, on my apologies on that, I said some things that were off-putting to what she actually did in the film world, and I wanted to change that, and we wanted to make it right with her. And this episode is very inspiring, and she talks about how she got started in the film industry, all the amazing things she's doing. She's writing her own films, she's writing her own shorts, and it's a very inspiring episode, and I cannot wait for us to re-release this episode and get it out, because it truly is an amazing podcast that you can take a lot of stuff from. And we're excited to get back onto a regular programming and a regular schedule, because we have been recording podcasts. We've been doing all these amazing things. We just haven't had the time to edit them. So we are back 2024. We're happy to be back, and we are excited to bring you some more episodes. But today, let's enjoy this one with Lindsay Dietz, and let's get into it. Welcome to the Greg Ryder Show for another episode, and today we are sitting down with Lindsay Dietz.
Correct.
Yes.
Nailed it.
When I get in my head and then I almost second guess myself, but Lindsay is an emerging filmmaker. She has a background in film, in stunts, and she has done pretty much everything on a set. And I think her story was very inspiring of how she got started in the film industry and kind of what she's doing now. So I'm looking forward. She's also a good friend. I'm excited to sit down with her and just talk about her life, how she got to where she is, and all the exciting things that she's doing. So Lindsay, welcome to the show.
Thank you. And I have to start by saying congrats on the show. I've been cheering you on for the last couple of years and everything that you've been doing, and I just think this is a fantastic project. Awesome. And I just appreciate the invite. I love hearing people's stories. I mean, that's part of like why I love to do what I do, telling stories, whether it's through music or film. So congrats on the project. I'm happy to be here.
I want to start off by saying to you, like, Lindsay has been an incredible support system for me, even going back to the marathon.
That was so fun. I'm so proud of you. That's not a small deal. That's a big deal.
And for someone, just a friend that we met, we'll get into that, but we met in Canmore on set for a show called Last of Us.
Just a little show called Last of Us, no big deal.
One of the biggest HBO whatever. We were doing background work for that. You were doing stunts. We were doing musician stuff, which we'll talk about.
Even cooler.
Lindsay, we met on that set. We developed a great friendship. We stayed in contact. And then I told, I'm on social media, said I'm running a marathon. And who's sitting there at the last kilometer or a bit was like with a sign saying like, "Go Greg." After finishing this marathon, I was like, man, that is a real friend. And I was just so blown away by the support to have someone running with you the last kilometer of like my first marathon. So thank you.
Well, I know what it's like. Like, I've been through that journey, and you have so many hours of training, and you like took us along that journey, and you were committed. Like, you were committed, and that is not a small thing. And I remember when I was running my marathon, the strangers that would cheer me on and what that did. And I always said, man, one day I'm going to be one of those people that cheer on these runners that have done all this training. So it was so fun. It was so fun. I think I'd rather do that than run them.
You know what? I learned that marathon running, it was a skill test. It was a challenge.
Yes.
But you know what? I'm not passionate about the running that much.
Same. Also a discovery.
The training process to get involved with a marathon was crazy, and just the running and like the days when you didn't want to run, but you just had this looming fear of this 42-kilometer race that you were doing in a couple months, and you're like, I gotta go run. I got to go run, because if I don't, I'm literally going to stop mid, out of breath, and fail.
Yeah.
We do not want to fail.
No, but it was, for my experience, it was a very difficult, sad experience. But I'm just so proud of you. But this isn't a running podcast.
It's not. You know, me and Lindsay, we met in Canmore. I touched on that a bit, and you know, we were on Last of Us. We both got hired to be musicians because, And I remember that we met up there, and I think it was the first time I got hired for something more than just extra work.
I think,
and I was excited because I'm like, I'm gonna be a musician on Last of Us. And,
little did we know.
Little did we know. Irony.
Yeah.
But we get there, and turns out that we weren't needed as much.
We didn't need, but we had a 3-day jam session, which was the coolest thing.
Yeah.
I want you to know, okay, yes, I did do stunts on Last of Us. I was an infected, but some of my best days on set has been as a BG, or what people refer to as an extra. Like the things I have done, the people I've met, like we literally sat in that holding for 3 days and jammed, and we got paid for it. Like that was incredible. Yeah.
So tell us about that. So getting into background work, a lot of people yes, it is like, it's a lot of long hours. Like if you're being used for the amount of time, it's crazy. You're on set for 14, 16 hours, whatever, but unless you're like us, we literally got paid to sit in a warm chalet, and all these musicians around us, all from Alberta, across Alberta, just sitting there, and we were just jamming, playing our original songs, and then they'd come in and be like, all right guys, we're gonna need you out there, put your coats on, come on set. And we go out there for 15, 20 minutes or whatever, sit out there, and then be like, okay, you guys can go back in.
Then we just jammed again. It was so much fun. That was incredible.
Yeah, it was amazing. And we met there, and we really hit it off, and we were just talking about kind of life, and it was just really good to get to know you, and we definitely developed a friendship that weekend. So it was awesome. But this podcast is about you and just kind of hearing about your story. So you are in stunts, you're an emerging filmmaker. You always say that you stumbled into, the film industry. Tell us a little bit about that. How'd you get started?
Yeah, well, I spent a couple years as a musician with an amazing female bandmate, Jamie. We had a little female duo, and we had a great time. We were just playing live music in restaurants and bars all over the city, who were amazing to us because we were a no-name duo. Like we had no professional music recorded. And that was my experience as a performer. I never took drama. I never wanted to act. I didn't know there was a film industry in Alberta. I thought it was all in Hollywood. Like I had no idea. And I was on Facebook once, and I just saw this advertisement scrolling in, and it's like, if you would ever want to be in a commercial or TV, like come to this agency. And so I was like, oh, maybe I could do that. Like, that sounds like fun. I mean, I don't know how good of an actor I'd be. So I just took a chance and did it. It turned out to be a horrendous, bogus agency, which was a big scam, but learned my lesson and very quickly got onto a legit agent. Had my first day on set. Actually, my first day on set was on Heartland as an extra. And I remember thinking, like, we sat there all day. And I'm like a doer. Right. I'm used to like just getting stuff done during the day. I don't like to sit around. It was a gorgeous summer day, and we sat in the basement of this thing for like 12, 13 hours. I think I saw set for like maybe an hour that day. And I thought, I am never doing this again. Yeah. This is the worst thing. I don't know what changed my mind. I guess I got a call for something else, and I did. And I loved it. You meet so many interesting people. I did all kinds of things. I was, as an extra, I was on top of a mountain in a scene with Liam Neeson that we had to take like snowcats and snowmobiles up to Fortress Mountain. And I'm just like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, how did this happen? It was so incredible. And then I learned a lot. The nice thing about someone that has I didn't go to film school. I never took drama. I was not an artsy kid. I was always into sports. but I love people and I love being in a room, and I really soaked up the learning, and I asked a ton of questions. I took my job very seriously. I showed up on time. I did what I was asked. I did, I just wanted to do a really good job, be a part of the team, make sure like whatever I was responsible for on set to react or do whatever, like I did it well. And people start to notice, and then you get opportunity and they're like, oh, we want Lindsay to be here in front of the camera, whatever. Oh, let's give her a line. Like all of a sudden doors started opening because I would just show up and do a really good job, or I would do I took it seriously. And in regards to, so I was doing that for a while, starting to, audition a bit. It was horrendous. I remember my very first audition. I had no idea what I was doing. It was for a Coca-Cola commercial. I literally looked in the camera, which you never do. Acting 101, you never look in the camera. I was like, it's a commercial. I'm going to drink my Coke while looking at the camera. It was so bad. It was so bad. Thankfully, the casting director must have saw potential because she kept seeing me for other things. She didn't just like blacklist me. And I just like learned by making a lot of mistakes. It was very humbling. It still is, because I feel like I'm still always like the least talented in the room. But like, it's so motivating.
Absolutely. And I just want to say that when we were on set together, I noticed that about you. It's like, like hanging out with you around set, it was like you knew everybody, and you knew everybody by name. And like, walking past a group of people, you're like, hey Steve.
Yeah.
Like it was good because like, that's what you got to do. Like you were just on, you even said that weekend, you were giving me a little bit of advice about the industry, and you were just saying like, you just got to be around. You got to hang around, and like, you never know if they're going to say like, hey, I like that person. Because it's at the end of the day, it's a relationship game, right? It's
totally.
If they like you and they say, hey, I want
they
to bring
can
that
trust
girl.
you.
Yeah.
They know that, okay, if we choose her, she's going to represent us well. And you got to, like, I wanted to represent the film industry well. I wanted to represent my boss as well. And then it got to a point where I was booked to do something on a show, and the stunt coordinator needed a girl to fight in this hockey scene. And a buddy of mine, he's like, oh man, it was like a last minute thing, it sounded like. And he was asking around. He asked another friend of mine, hey, do you know any like stunt performers that are like, here, we need this last minute girl to do this fight scene? And he's like, well, like Lindsay's here, but she's never done it. Thank goodness I didn't do it. Even though I was gung-ho, I was like, put me in, coach. If I would have performed that day, not knowing anything, I think it was like a fight scene. I had to punch another girl, but literally at that time, I didn't really know how to punch. If I would have done that, I would have never worked again because I wouldn't have done a good job. I had no idea what I was doing. So I stood there, missed that opportunity, saw another girl come in and do it. And when I watched it, I was just like, I could do that. Like if I work hard, I know I can do that. And I told myself, I will never miss another opportunity like that. So the next day, I kid you not, I called up Muay Thai and boxing gyms, and I started taking Muay Thai and boxing. I did everything I could. I started like calling up stunt buddies that were, in that department. And I was like, can I train with you? Like, do you have any tips? And while being really respectful too, because we're all trying to hustle for work. And I think that's important, but I was just like keen to learn. And I think it took about a year of training and doing these workshops and like meeting people before I got my first opportunity and actually it was to stunt double on Black Summer season 1. And I just like, it's a big deal for a stunt coordinator to take a risk on a new performer and give them their first day. And I will always appreciate, shout out to Adrian, for doing that for me, because that is a big deal, because it's one of those catch-22s, like you have to have experience before you can get the job, but you can't get the job because you have no experience. And when someone takes a chance on you for stunts to give you your first day, that is huge. That was huge for me. So that's kind of what it's been. Stunts can be like few and far between. Thankfully for my frame and look, I did a job which is called a stand-in, which is kind of part of the crew. It's kind of a weird job, but basically you're like an actor's photo double. So if the two actors were doing the scene here, they'd step off to go, do their wardrobe changes, and two stand-ins would come in. A stand-in that looked like you and a stand-in that looked like me. And we kind of reenact the scene as they're setting up the lights and the cameras. So I was a good like body double for a lot of actresses my size and frame, which was good for doubling. So I just worked really hard on the skill side because matched with the physicality, it kind of, and I still do. I still got to work so hard to just have my toe in the water or whatever. But yeah, I've had some great opportunities, worked on some, big shows and big films. I'm grateful for it all. And yeah, it's been a journey.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Yeah. And the stand-in is funny because I did stand-in on a couple shows, and like you get treated like you get the better bar, you get the better food cart. You get the better timeout place, and then you go to background extra, and you go back down to like the pen.
It's
and so after you do a couple of stand-ins, you're like, you get used to that life.
Yeah.
And I was like, I get like,
it's so silly, but it's so true.
I get aioli on my bun.
Yeah.
You don't get aioli.
I get the good coffee at my Crafty.
Oh yeah. And it's like, yeah. And then I'm like, I don't want to go back to background after that because you get used to the stand-in stuff.
Oh, it is so silly. It is what it is. And, but it's just, yeah. And then I thought to myself, like, man, like stunts is awesome, but like longevity, like there's no longevity in that career. Yeah. So I was looking at something because I love the film industry. I love the people that I work with. Alberta is incredible. Like it's a small nucleus of people that are so skilled, so blue collar, so hardworking. We all know each other. Every show is like summer camp. You get to go work with all your friends. And it's just like, I am so grateful to go up to work every day on set, like when I can in any department. So I was like, how can I keep this going? Acting was, hard to make it in Alberta. Stunts is great, but again, few and far between. We don't get a lot of like high action shows, a lot of beautiful dramas, with some, car chase scenes or whatever mixed in, but it's not like Supergirl or Batman or, like a lot of the Vancouver industry had for years and years. So I thought like, man, maybe producing. Another way that I was able to showcase my skills for stunts in order to get work was I would put these little action demos together. So I'd call up my friends, call up some crew, and I'd be like, hey, let's like shoot a scene where I can showcase some of my skills that I'm not able to maybe showcase on set. But I want my bosses to know that I'm capable and I'm ready. So we put together these little action scenes. I love that. We would have like a 10-person crew. I'd call my stunt buddy, I'd be like, come beat me up. Let me beat you up. And I really like that. So I was like, man, I think producing might be the long-term goal. So I kind of been leaning into that.
Yeah, I love that. I think longevity is the goal for, any industry. It's like, how do you figure out how to stay in it and, keep doing it? And yeah. So now you're kind of been leaning into some other worlds. And I think what I take away from that is that, I love that you said, it's the ability to kind of just show up and like, be willing to do whatever it takes, because so many people might have talked themselves out of it because they didn't have the background or the experience. And I think that's held me back in my life. It's probably held back a lot of listeners, where you have this interest, you have this thing that you want to do, but you all of a sudden the self-doubt comes in, it creeps in and says, what are you doing?
Yeah, totally.
You're not an actor.
Totally.
You're not a stunt double. What are you doing? Like, go get a job. Just go and do your thing. Be normal. And I think that's like the importance is that you took something you were interested in. You're just like, hey, like you said something before the show, and you said like, why not me? Like if it takes hard work, I'm willing to put in the hard work. I'm willing to show up, be a good and just continue to work at it. And I think that's what so many people need to hear, is that if you want to do something, like you have to jump through the window and go for it.
Totally. And it's my personality too. Like I've always been quite optimistic, which is a good quality to have maybe in film, because it can be really treacherous on the emotions, especially as a performer. Trying to book a gig can just be, it's extremely hard. And then you book a gig and you're like, I'm on cloud 9. I got some momentum. They're going to be rolling in. And you hear nothing for months. Like it's just, and So when I was thinking, like, I needed something a little more that I could stay in the game more consistently. So be on work more, pretty much, in something that would kind of steady me out. Like the highs maybe not as high and the lows aren't as low. So what's something that I could like work more at? And I was thinking of different departments. So producing. And then I thought, man, to start at the beginning of another department. I mean, I worked my way up in the performing one from BG to stunts, and that was a mission. So rewarding, learned a lot. It was awesome, but that took years.
Yep.
And I ain't getting any younger. So I was like, well, if I write my own movie, nobody can tell me I can't learn to produce on that. So that's what I did. I had no idea what I was doing. I have no writing background. I am not an English lit student. I have never enjoyed writing. I was a terrible songwriter. I'm just going to be honest. I wasn't good at it. Now I know I just needed more pages, you know? Ooh. So I started writing. I had a couple stories in mind, started writing it. Again, I started in a word processor. I had no idea what I was doing. Like that is, now that I know, like there's actually like script format programs.
What's one of those?
Final Draft is a great one. It's an industry standard. That's the one that you want to write your scripts on. So I had to like take my Word document script or whatever and whatever. It's not that big a deal, but Final Draft. But the interesting thing was, so I broke it down. I was like, you know what? You hear these stories of like people taking years or decades to write a script. And in my ignorance, I like broke it down. I was like, okay, if I write like 1 page a day, a script is anywhere from like 80 to 90 pages, let's say. They say like 1 page is 1 minute of film. Okay. So 90 pages is like your feature film. And I was like, man, if I write 1 page a day, it's like 3 months, 4 months of work. 4 months, I could have a finished script.
Yep.
That's nothing.
Yep.
That's what I did. Sometimes I wrote 3 pages a day and then sometimes, but I got it done. I sat and I wrote that script till it was done. In my ignorance, I thought the first draft was the final draft. Right. And I was like, hey, there's my movie. I'm going to go try and like make this movie. There's my Leonardo script. Yeah. Oh my goodness. There has been many drafts since, but it's incredible. So with that feature that I wrote, so I wrote that I think just under a year ago. And we're like hitting development with it. I found some great producing partners in Alberta. My goal was to write something that I could work alongside my friends. I could have more creative control. I can have more control over my career. What I want to do. I wanted to be a part of projects that I was like really proud to be a part of. And so I wrote something that I would love to do and be a part of. And I have an amazing team. I have an amazing like friends cheering me on who I hope I can call and be like, I want to hire you for my film. I'm working with a great editor right now. So yeah, lots of stuff. Since then, I've written another feature that I'm trying to sell. I've been taking some meetings for that. And then, yes, a TV series on the way. I have a bunch of features kind of started and a series. So yeah, writing was like a new discovery for me that I'm...
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, yeah. And again, just to go off this theme of like, why not me? I'm not the best storyteller. I'm not the best writer. You don't have to be. You can hire a team to help you. You can learn. You can always get better. But if there's the slightest chance that it's possible, which I believe there always is, then why not go for it?
Yeah.
Like, I just sat there and I was like, I could be a producer on my own film. There is a chance that that's possible. Why am I not working towards that? No one's going to hand it to me. Writing sucks. It is very isolating. You spend a lot of time by yourself. It's a lot of hours. But it's also very beautiful because you create these stories and these characters that in a weird way kind of become your friends. And then you have something to work with. You have a product you can take to market and you can it's just, I'm getting really like excited about it now. I was kind of in the blues about it because I felt like I was working so hard with this one particular script. And it was a year of just like feeling like we weren't getting any headway. It's a marathon, as we can relate. It's a marathon, not a sprint. But man, we can start prepping for it in spring. Like the plan is to start prepping and then shoot it. And I know one day I'm going to be day one on my own film, surrounded by all my friends in the film industry. And we're going to be shooting a movie that I wrote. I strongly believe that that's going to happen. And if not, that's okay too. You know, like I work really hard, but I'm working really hard to hold it loosely. I told God that if this isn't going to be a good thing for me, not saying that it has to be super successful, but if I'm wasting my time, like take away the passion, because I'm like so passionate about it. I don't think I could just walk away. So I'm still really passionate about it. So I'm just going to go with it till I'm not. But at the end of the day, there's more important things, but I'm really grateful.
Yeah. You know what? I just want to say, like, we're 25 minutes into this, and I think this is one of the most inspiring episodes already, because it's so important to just, I think I love it because we hear constantly about like consistency and working on something like every single day. And, you know, so many people struggle with, you know, finding their purpose or finding a goal that they're just like, they want to just dive into and like having these goals. But it's like when you take these massive goals and these massive dreams and you break it down into what you just did with 1 page per day, like anyone can write a page, anyone can write a couple words, like a sentence. And that's what I love is like that's what I love to do is like, you know, when it was always like breaking down these massive goals into like bite-sized chunks, which was very, very hard for me. I don't think I've ever told you this, but one of my dreams and one of my visions, I've always wanted to create a one-man show, like a one-man play.
Wow.
Like a one-man play and like act out my life and kind of just make it kind of like talking about going down to Nashville, talking about kind of being a bartender in the Cayman Islands. And I'm going to use Final Draft because like, I think that's so cool is like, I'm developing a keynote speech to kind of, you know, to speak at events and stuff like that and incorporate my music. But I think it'd be so cool to be like, yeah, develop a script and develop this kind of like this one-man play that I can kind of act out with my music.
I think that's great. And I will definitely show you that program.
All right, I just want to pause this conversation quickly just to talk about one of our dear sponsors, Rocket Grid Marketing. They are an incredible Alberta-based digital marketing company, and they focus on growing brands. They focus on hitting business goal needs and whatever your business may need to take you to the next level. So if you want to check out more about what they do, head to rocketgrid.ca and see what they do.
Don't get stressed out trying to plan and execute your marketing strategies. We've got you covered. Rocket Grid Marketing, your integrated marketing experts.
Or like look it up. It is, I read somewhere recently, I'm trying to remember where it was, but basically it's like a finished script or a finished play, not a concept, not an idea, not like, hey, this is like something I've been thinking about. A finished script is like money in your bank. It's like you have something to go off of. Like I said, it's crazy because I mean, I was a stay-at-home mom for loved it. I entered when my kids went back to school. I was just turned 30. I have no post-secondary education. I was like, oh, I'll get into the workforce. Like I got time to do something. I kid you not, you guys, this is very humbling, but I couldn't even get a job at a like restaurant. Like nobody wanted to hire me. I tried to get a job at the snowboard shop, skate shop in the mall, and they would not hire me. I was a 30-year-old woman that had raised kids at home. I had like started my own business like when I was young, and I had done all this stuff like on my own, but it wasn't like transferable on paper. And I felt like such a loser. All my friends had built these amazing careers in their 20s. They were doing stuff. Not that I wasn't like confident in my abilities. I just didn't know how to use my people skills for like a job. And it was it was a really hard time. I felt like I had my midlife crisis when I turned 30. And long story short, obviously found film and music and other things. And I feel like I'm just getting started, and I'm a couple years shy of my 40th. And it's like, I can't wait to get in my 40s because that's where I feel like I'm going to make my moves. Like I have that much more life experience underneath me. It's hard as a woman, and it's hard as a young woman. I've been very, I get patronized a lot. Like, there, honey. Like one day, like that's cute. Like it's real. And I get it. I don't have a ton of experience, but it definitely like lights the fire in me. And I've learned to like stand up for myself. I've learned to be like, you know what? Like, I believe in this. This is a great thing. I have something to bring to the table. Oh, I also read this amazing thing, which was so great for me when I was really pursuing acting. Did Sean Johnson off of Heartland, he might have said it once in an acting class that I took of his. Basically, there's like two sides to the page. So when you, let's say, we'll use this example as acting. So on the one side of the page, you have the breakdown of the character, what they look like, how they act, their mannerisms, maybe, you know, their backstory. Everybody gets that. And on the other side of the page is you and your story and you, and nobody else owns that. So it's like, what can you bring to that character that nobody else does? Like, it's that two sides to the page. And I just remember thinking like, man, here I am trying to get this acting thing. I didn't go to film school. I'm not this highly trained actor, but I have something in my life story that nobody else has. I have my own life experiences. I have my own way of thinking, my own personality, that I can bring to this that nobody else can. And I'm not saying it in a sense that like, oh, I'm the best. It's just like, own it. You never know. So when I started writing and bringing, it's like nobody else owns, like, this is what I bring to the table. I walk into a room and now it's exciting because now I'm sitting at a table with like, I just sat at a table with one of the producers that produced Dumb and Dumber. Like, and I'm sitting at that table and I'm owning that seat because I know, you know, you have to be confident in your side of the page. And especially as a young woman, you have to be like, I know what I bring to the table, but I also know I have a lot to learn. So I would love to like learn from you so it's been like an interesting journey, but I'm hoping as I get into my 40s, I won't be looked down on so much per se.
Well, when you have your own film, ain't nobody looking down on you.
I remember I told someone once, they're like, what's your dream with your like film? And I said, I want to be an EP, like an executive producer. First off, he explained to me what an EP was. And then he's like, well, like that's kind of ridiculous. I was just like, first off, like you didn't ask me if it was possible or how you thought of it. You asked me what I wanted to do and I told you. And then the fact that he had to explain to me what it just was like, it is what it is. And I'm not saying just women. Like I know like there's lots of young guys that deal with, I mean, we all do to some degree, but yeah, it's definitely been like fire, like fuel to the fire, which isn't a bad thing.
And I think as high achievers and people that are going after something, like even when I try and explain what I do, like I get tired of trying to explain, you know, that I'm a singer-songwriter, that, hey, Greg, you don't have any shows coming up. Like, oh, what do you do for work? It's like, I do a lot of different things. Totally, but like, it's just like, it's hard. It's hard for anyone that's just looking to, you know, that's just been misunderstood and just going after a vision that only they see in their head. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the thing, right? Is like it's hard to sometimes put it into words what you're going after, but like it's almost like you're trusting the process. You're writing every single day. But if you're trying to explain that you're writing your own feature film to someone that's only worked a 9-to-5 or a corporate job,
right? Yeah.
You look like you deserve to be in a straitjacket.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. I had to let go of people's kind of what they thought, you know, what they thought you should do but again, I think that's just coming from always being the least talented in the room. And I say that and not like in a good way, like, because it just, it keeps you humble and it keeps you motivated and it keeps you learning. Mm-hmm. Like as a stunt performer, this is how crazy this is to me. And this is just to encourage people. Why not you? Because if I can do it as like a stay-at-home mom, anyone can. So as a stay-at-home mom who worked really hard to kind of get her foot in the door to stunts, I kid you not, I am on set and I'm working alongside people that are Olympic athletes, multiple, like 2-time Olympic athletes, like world champion fighters, martial artists, NCAA gymnasts. Like these are the people that work in stunts, and that is like the norm. And then there's me. And it was so embarrassing because people would always be like, what's your special skill? Like, what's your background? What do you do? And I'm like, small town athlete. We played every sport, like, you know, not to that extent, but it was just like, it was so embarrassing. It's like I had to have like a script of like how I was going to answer that, because I wanted to prove myself that I can hold my own, but you also can't false advertise yourself.
Right.
So I kind of had to play it off cutesy, like, oh, you know, just small town athlete, whatever, you know, whatever it was. But it's just like, and eventually I'm just like, you know what, I'm just going to own it. And I think it did inspire people to be like, you know, it just, you can go for it. And like, it took a lot of hard work. Like, let's not downplay that. You know, in order to be hired and work alongside these incredible athletes that are pretty much full-time athletes and have spent their life perfecting and getting highly skilled in not only like their sport, but maybe in other sports. Like, I did not want to be the weakest link, but yeah, so it took a lot of hard work. But as a woman, it was so, it sounds cliche, but I'm going to own it, like so empowering, especially as a woman. You know, like 7 years ago, I didn't know how to throw a punch.
Right.
And it was scary. I remember like walking in parkades in the city by myself and being terrified. I would have like, if I had to walk a block, it was scary. I was looking over my shoulder, and like, not that I'm out there like looking for a fight, but I do not, that's not on my radar. Like doing boxing and Muay Thai and learning these skills and learning to fight. And it's not like I feel like I can fight off the biggest dude, but I can definitely put up some resistance. And it's just, there's something about this confidence that it gets. I think it's so important for women to do some kind of like martial art. I have a 15-year-old daughter, and she's taking some classes, and we have a heavy bag. And I'm like, it is so important for me to know that you have confidence in yourself and that you can have that. So yeah, that's something that's been kind of like changed. It literally changed my life in a weird way. Like, it really did. Learning those skills really changed my life. And then the whole stalker thing. So like, that was a whole other thing. So
just a little context on that. Your first feature film, your short film. You did a short film, and this is all about a true story that you wrote off of. So tell us a little bit about...
So prior to getting into film, you know, we were these small town musicians, and we got like this fan, and at first it was so exciting, you know,
this fan.
Yeah. So this, you know, started putting little clips on Instagram, you know, back in the day, and, you know, some guy commented on it like, oh, it sounds so good. And it's just like, oh, that's, you know, thank you. And started getting a little more intense and a little more like personal and a little more. And I was just like, okay, cool. Like, thanks, but no thanks, or whatever. And then, we started gigging, and this person from the internet that I had never met before showed up to our gig. And at first I was like, oh my goodness, like, our fans here. You know, it was kind of like, with that being said, it was like an instant kind of, you got that gut feeling. It's not like I rushed over to him and was like, hi, thanks for coming. I did not approach him. I just kind of was like, hi. Because you could just tell, like, it just wasn't a good feeling. To make a long story short, this carried on for probably a year or two. It only intensified in so many different ways, to the point where I had to get emergency restraining orders and had to change my number. We had to kind of stop playing music because we'd book a venue, couldn't advertise. And then booking the venue would be like, oh, by the way, do you have security on standby? Can someone help me to my car after? Like, it's a nightmare. What venue wants to have high maintenance performers come? I mean, they were all amazing, but it just got like ridiculous. I didn't feel safe. We played out in the boonies once at night. We're on our, and it was, he had came there after the cops had told him to go. They literally had to like chase him out of town. He didn't go. We were on our driveway home, drive home. It was like maybe an hour or two drive back to our town on these like dark, vacant roads. The whole time I just thought he was going to like come up behind us, and because he tried to follow us home. It was a very dramatic story because we ended up getting a flat tire, which I thought he did on purpose, and like all this stuff.
Oh my God, this is a horror. This is a horror movie in the making.
Terrible. So anyways, we started doing more like private farm to table functions, which was really fun. And then COVID happened and kind of shut everything down. And it was just kind of a natural progression to, you know what? I need to like sort my life out with this guy because it was very traumatic. He found out where I lived, showed up at my house multiple times. I wouldn't answer my door. We had to put security system in. I had to tell my family, like, I will not answer the door. So if you're coming over, you have to call me first, because I would hide. As soon as the doorbell rang, I would like go hide.
Right.
So unfortunately, this kid ended up going to jail briefly. Like, it just because he would just he'd get a sentencing, he'd break his sentencing, and it would just be this vicious cycle. And I remember, let's backtrack. When I finally was like, I need to report this, my husband's like, you need to, like, he's not listening to anybody. You need to go start a file. I walk into my local RCMP and I asked if I can talk to an officer, and I sit down and I was like, hey, this stranger's not leaving me alone. I've tried everything. It's only escalated. Like, I need help. What can I do? And I kid you not, this is what he said. He said, oh, but has he touched you yet?
Right.
I lost it. I said, I am not coming back here after I've been raped or assaulted. Like, are you kidding me? I'm here to prevent that. I have to be raped before I can come to get help. As soon as I said those words, and I like said the word rape and assaulted, and he like started singing a different tune, which was great. And then they were great to work with. This is why I was so passionate about writing this story and doing it for my short film, because I'm like, women deal with this, and not just women, people deal with this all the time. They have no idea that stalking and harassment in Canada is a criminal offense. You can spend up to 10 years in jail and you don't have to touch the person. Like, that's how invasive it can be. That's how like traumatic it can be. And so, and not that I'm out there to ruin this kid's life. Like, he had so many chances. For a long time, I felt that it was my fault. I felt guilty. In a weird way, I felt like, oh my goodness, like I did this to myself. I did this to him. No, you didn't. This person is choosing to do this. P.S. He's not mentally unstable. Part of his sentencing was a psych eval, and he came back fine. Because that was my thing. I'm like, oh, he's probably mentally unstable. There's some kind of mental thing here where he has a sick fantasy that we're together. Like, the stuff he would say to me was so disturbing, and how he would react to me was so disturbing and violating. And it was a very unique situation. The RCMP kept telling me, this is really unique. A lot of times when we are working with restraining orders, it's with couples that have broken up and exes. Very rarely is it a stranger. And then they kept saying, like, he is a lot smarter than he's letting on. I guess in his interrogation, it was like he played this like A game to the point where they couldn't figure out anything. They couldn't figure out how he found out where I lived, how he found out all this information. They got a warrant for his phone, and it was just like all pictures of me. And they asked him straight up, you know, like, what's your plan to do with her? What do you want to do with Lindsay? And they would build it to like, well, do you want to take her somewhere? Like, they would try and kind of like, and he wouldn't play the game. He was so smart about it. And he just kept saying, oh, I would never hurt her. I would never hurt her. And I didn't know if to believe that was his line. How do I know that he would never hurt me? Because desperation can lead to that. So in this short film, I wrote it that this stalker is so desperate to keep me that he ends up kind of like choking me, like physically trying to keep me there, to the point where it's like choking me. But he never intentionally wants to hurt me, but he just doesn't want to let me go. And that to me was what I thought was going to be my reality. I thought either he was going to like kill me and kill himself, because if he can't have me, no one can, or his desperation would lead to some kind of physical harm. That is what I lived in for years. And so the short film, I got some people that like this crew together that I really trusted, because it was also triggering. You know, it was traumatic. Yeah. They were so great. They were so safe with me. They came together and we did this amazing shoot. It was very therapeutic in a way, I guess. And again, empowering. And yeah, the guys, my buddy, the stunt actor that played the stalker, was amazing and so great with it, and so gentle and safe. so this short film was more of a PSA, like a public service announcement, where it's like the message is, and there's literally like a message at the end about like stalking and harassing is a crime. If you're in trouble, like go get help. Like this is not okay. You're allowed to protect yourself. So that was a passion project that we just shot, and it's in post-production and should be done soon. So I'm excited for the world to see that. These are the kind of projects which led me to like be a creator and a filmmaker. Like I wanted to make a difference and make a difference sounds so cliche, but it's true, you know, like, and it was really sad because once I started sharing my story, I was really embarrassed about it for a long time, really ashamed. Like I thought it was my fault that I was ruining this kid's life. But you know, once I started talking about it, so many women were like, oh, that happened to me, or, oh, I remember, like, it's insane. Yeah. It is insane. I don't get it. I don't get what's with these dudes. I think they can just like not respect people's boundaries. But anyways, that's a story for another day. But anyways, so yeah, it was an amazing project and I'm really proud of it and I can't wait to have it out.
That's awesome. And yeah, you say about make a difference. I think it's like, it is, sure, it's used a lot, but I think it's so important when people are doing arts and creative things to actually to make an impact and to come across something. I think that's so cool because like I think about like we don't need another heartthrob, you know, movie or something like that, or another drama. Like it's good to have like, you know, when people are actually doing something that can actually help other people. So,
but we also love those dramas because that's what my feature film is.
Okay. Good plug. But so, yeah. So that's so you got your feature, your short film coming out 2024. It's in post-production and you got your feature film.
It'll be coming out right away. Yeah.
So now just quickly, what's this, you said it's a drama. What's the kind of synopsis for the feature film?
Yeah. This one talks a lot about grief. The goal with my feature film was to showcase a more authentic journey of grief because I felt like that hadn't really been done as appropriately as it could as someone who's kind of had experience with grief and loss. So instead of having a film where it's like someone passes away and then 3 scenes later, it's like their life goes on. I was like, man, that is not reality. And how can I do something that's more authentic to grief, but also be entertaining? Right. So I started writing about that. I had some amazing people. The cool thing about writing is, and I don't know because I'm a new writer, and I don't know if this is the case for everybody, but so many of my characters are inspired from people I know in my life. And I think that's, you know, the older you get, the richer your life experiences, right? You have more to pull from. You've learned more. You've experienced more. You've experienced more emotion, like the bitter and the sweet of it, you know? So experiencing more life has really lent itself well to my writing. And so another big part of this film was I met someone that was like super inspiring and basically based this character off of. And I actually had like the awkward, because we met and he's a creative too, an amazing guy. But it was like, I don't really know him that well, but big dreamer type, you know, but I like ended up calling him and I was just like, hey, this is kind of awkward, but like I'm doing a film and the character's kind of based off you. Like, is that okay? I don't know if it'll ever get made, but if you see a movie that you're like, hey, that guy looks familiar or like acts familiar, like this is why. He was amazing about it. He just kind of laughed and he's like, put me in your film. So he'll have the cameo. That's so cool. Yeah. So a few things kind of inspired the feature and it kind of all came together. And so that's where we are with that one.
That's awesome. Well, listen, this has been an amazing conversation. It's been so awesome, you know, getting to know your story and how you got to where you are. And I think it is incredibly inspiring for, you know, all listeners. And, you know, I asked you a question. I said, you know, what do you want people to take away from this? So what would you like to leave the audience with?
Just like dream, like don't be scared to dream big. And like always believe in your side of the page and what that can bring to whatever that passion is, that job that you want after, whatever it is, because you just never know. Like, why not you? right? Like, and I just want to say, like, same to you. Like, congrats on everything that you're doing and the way that you've persevered. Like,
I like it. No, you can keep talking.
yeah. Greg's amazing. Like in Canmore, he would just like pick up the guitar, start writing a song. Someone would say something in a conversation. He was like, oh, I like that. Grab a piece of paper. I remember this. Write stuff down. Like just like he's doing now. Just a bit of improv. Like, yeah, that's a whole other skill too.
It's so funny when someone has an inspiring story and talks about their journey. It's cool when you just have, I think it's Why Not You? It's just a dreamer. It's going out and making their mark. And this is how we're going to end the show.
Love it.
This might be a huge flop, or it might be good. We don't know. 'Cause I was just a regular guy, just trying to find something I could do with my life. And there was Lindsay, and she was just your stay-at-home mom, trying to find a job to get home. She started to find things that she's really interested in, so she worked her way to the scene. And now she's making movies, and she's gonna be on the big screen. And I just wanna say, why not you? Why can't you chase your dreams? Why can't you be the person that's living out their dreams every day? Why not you? Why not go? Why not chase it down the road? Why not try something that you never done? 'Cause you never know. Why not you? Yeah, why not you? Why not you?
I'm just saying I get 10% of that cut. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on, Lindsay.
Oh, it was so fun.
What a great
Thanks
story.
for having me. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome.